So last spring, this log, which was sunken on my west side shoreline, been there for as long as I can remember. Hooked onto it with the bike when the water was low, wrapped a chain around it and hauled it out here. So when I was walking by it with a chainsaw one day, I cut the end off it to see how solid it was. And it looks pretty good. There's a little bit of a sliver at the end. But the log itself is, I don't know, probably 14 feet long. I'm thinking that I might saw that up today and see if I can get some lumber out of it. So in order to cut straight lumber with the type of mill that I have here, operates off the chainsaw, you have to have either a 2x4 or 2x6, which is what I use. It has to be straight, because as the bracket on this chainsaw that slides along with that board, if that board is crooked, you'll end up with a crooked cut. So it doesn't really matter so much if it waves up and down this way, but the edge has to be smooth, and you'll end up with a good cut. So when you're fastening the board to the log, you only want to go tight enough that keeps the board from wobbling too much. If you over tighten it, you'll end up warping the board, and that's not good either. So the first cut is always the trickiest, because you don't really have a flat spot to work from. So I just kind of eyeball it. Now where that guide here rides along the edge of the board, you've got an offset. So you have to take that into consideration as this bracket slides along that board. You have to calculate where that saw is going to cut. So what I'm initially trying to do is get a flat side to that log, so I have something to work with. So my 10-foot board was just a little bit short for the length of this log. Looks like there's another 4.5 feet at the end. I really don't need that. Most of the lumber I cut is make stuff out of, and I've got some logs for repairing docks and that kind of stuff. So yeah, lumber is what I need for, I don't know, I have several projects that I do, and often I need some straight lumber to produce it. So now I've got a flat surface to work from. I'll be able to take that board and mount it to that flat surface, and I can go from there. So that's after my second cut, and now I have a 90-degree in that log. Surprising how good that wood has stayed being submerged for God knows how long. The water preserved it, there's no doubt. I'm not sure what it is yet. Probably pine. There's a few knots in it. It wouldn't be red pine, so if it is pine and not a spruce, I would say it would likely be a white pine. Not as sharp as I thought it was, so I'm going to give her a little touch up. And there might be a lot of sand on the outside of that, because it was sitting in a combination mud sand bottom, so it might dull my chain pretty quick. Well, anyway, give her a little touch up. Keeping your saw chain sharp is important. It makes it a lot easier on you. It makes it a lot easier on the saw. And it's not so much pressure on the bar itself. Most guys, when they're running a dull saw, what they'll do is they'll lean into it a little bit harder to get the teeth into the wood a little further, and it can overheat the bar. So keep the saw chain sharp. Make sure that the oiler is working sufficiently and you've got enough lubrication in the bar groove to keep things running smooth. So the next step that we have to do is give that log a 90-degree turn and move that 2x6 to this next side. And we have to measure from the first cut across so that we end up with a board thickness that is consistent. So this cut I'm making, I'd like to end up with about a 1-inch board, or maybe just a little bit better. And I find they dry out fairly quickly. Now, in order to get a 1-inch board, you have to consider the thickness of your bar and how much thickness your chain cuts. So what I've discovered is, in order to get that thickness of a board, I measure with this particular setup 2 1/8 inches from the edge of that board to the outside. So we got a little bit of a gap there because this bar is offset from the bracket. So I end up with about 1.25 inches. So, you know, like the chainsaw doesn't make a perfectly nice smooth cut like a bandsaw mill would, but by the time you put it through the jointer and then the planer, you end up with about a 1-inch board, and it's workable. I don't need any more 2x4s because I'm pretty much finished building anything that I want to build. And if I'm in a rush for a 2x4, I can always pick up a couple at the store. But for my projects around out here at the cottage, this is a perfect. Something so satisfying about making your own board and lumber, especially when it's free. Well, minus the gas that it takes to run the chainsaw. Yeah, so now I've got it's about a 12-foot board. I'll be able to make something out of that. So out of that small log, I ended up with a couple of nice 1x6 or 7s, and with the rest of this one here, I'll cut it this way and I'll end up with some 1x3s or 2s, depending on how this ends up, but I'm not worried too much about that. I'll show you what I made not too long ago, and you'll understand why I want pieces like that. As you can tell, the white pine are dropping some excess needles for the winter, and the maples and the ash too are starting to drop their leaves. Anyhow, this is a project that I made last winter, and I guess call them like a Muskoka chair, but they're so comfortable. But boy, are they ever a pain in the butt to make. Now, I have several other ones that I purchased, and I took the pattern off one of those, and I made plywood patterns, and I cut them all out. And it's all 1x pine. But I really like these chairs, and I'd like to make another one or two, because these other ones are getting old and rotten, and they sit outside all year, all through the winter. So anyway, that's what I'm up to with that. Well, that's enough for today. Sunday afternoon, and Blue Jays are playing this afternoon, so hopefully if they win, they can take top place and put the Yankees second. I don't know how many Yankee fans are going to see this, but good luck to you.